In the next few seconds, everything could change for those who believed that the Warriors' golden era was over. If you are a fan who has become accustomed to finals, titles, and respect, but today you are afraid of seeing the team slip into irrelevance, this news directly affects you. The frustration with defeats, inconstancy, and the feeling that time is running out ended in a way that few imagined. The player who can put the Warriors back on top has just said yes. Today, you will understand what is behind this decision, why it completely changes the direction of the franchise, and how this could be exactly the answer you expected to see the team fight for everything again. Stay until the end, because the scenario that is emerging now could be the beginning of a new dynasty. If this already made sense to you, do the following now. Don't leave the video. Press like because this shows that you are still in the crowd, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any details of the next chapters of this possible historic turn. Every subscription helps bring you more hot news like this and keeps you one step ahead of the rest of the league. Take a deep breath, adjust your headphones, because what follows explains exactly how this decision blows up the NBA and what it means for the future of the Warriors. Stay with me. From the first minute, you could feel that there was something different in the air. It wasn't one of those chaotic nights where the Golden State Warriors seemed to be chasing themselves the entire game. On the contrary, from the opening jump against Dallas, the team entered the court with a strange calm, almost silent, but extremely clear. There was a plan, and everyone was committed to it. No despair, no isolated heroism. Just focus, discipline, and a very lucid reading of what the season requires. The first quarter practically designed the script for the match. While the Mavericks were still trying to find their rhythm, the Warriors had already taken control of the game. The ball circulated, the attack didn't lock in on a single player, and the defense was alert enough to force Dallas to always react, instead of dictating the course of the night. The score, already ahead early on, was not just a numerical advantage. It was a message. Today, we are in charge. This initial advantage was more important than it seems. By opening up early, Golden State achieved something it doesn't always have: the possibility of playing within its own identity, without needing to chase the result, without entering into spirals of despair. At halftime, the gap was still relatively comfortable. There was no spectacle, no three-ball show, or 20-0 run. There was something even more valuable at this point in the season: consistency. And that's exactly where this match draws attention. On several nights this year, we saw that well-known film in which the team starts well, but disappears in the third quarter, loses focus, falls for difficult shots, and suddenly lets games that were under control slip away. Not this time. The Warriors didn't need a highlight show to win. He needed to defend seriously, secure the rebounds that normally escape him, and force Dallas to fight for every point. The final score, with a difference of 10 points, is almost deceiving. Anyone who saw the game from start to finish had the feeling that the real margin was greater. At no point did Golden State appear to be in collapse, nor dependent on an individual outburst to survive. And this is significant when we remember the atmosphere that surrounded the team. The feeling that any night could turn into a disaster, that the line between an important victory and a frustrating defeat is extremely thin. In this context, there was also a natural curiosity aimed at Cooper Flagg. He is the type of player about whom expectations are created long before his career really begins to be written. His stat line wasn't bad. He scored, got rebounds, distributed assists. But if you think about it, at no point did the match seem to revolve around him. In a game with a great showcase, one in which the narratives build themselves almost by themselves, he went more unnoticed than his promised status allows. That doesn't mean he had a weak game. Far from it. But games with great exposure like this one require something more. These are nights when great players mark their territory, leaving an impression that remains stuck in the memory of those who watch. And, looking at the history of great prospects, the trajectory is never the same. Some arrive dominating, others need more time to understand the weight of protagonism. Cooper appears to still be in the process of discovery. Against a physically shorter Warriors at some points in the rotation, and without all of their main names available, he had a good chance of taking control. In theory, the scenario was almost ideal for this. In practice A, we saw a competent player wanting to do the right thing, but still without that attitude of, "It's my game, everything goes through me now." There were flashes, good readings, specific plays, but there wasn't that part of the match where everyone silently realized that something had changed hands. On the other side, Golden State showed something that fans have been demanding for a long time: balance. Several players scoring well, responsibilities divided, no one trying to solve everything alone. This type of distribution shows trust, not only from the coach to the squad, but from the players to each other. When the team accepts that the best decision is often the extra pass and not the contested shot, basketball becomes lighter, more fluid, and the opposing defense is forced to work harder with each possession. Still, there is one point that cannot be ignored. The relationship with the three-point line remains problematic. The volume remains high. The attempt to maintain the identity built in the peak years is there, but the efficiency simply isn't keeping up. Shooting below 30% from the perimeter repeatedly is a dangerous path, especially for a team that for a long time made this weapon its greatest asset. When even Stephen Curry has a night where shots don't fall, all of this becomes even more exposed. Even when the ball doesn't go in, Curry's presence on the court changes everything. Defenses reorganize, open spaces where they wouldn't otherwise, hesitate to double up on other players, and this creates valuable opportunities. The problem is that apart from him, there is a lack of that name that the opponent automatically respects behind the line of three. Many possessions end in contested shots, in hasty decisions, when a simple step inside the perimeter, an infiltration, or a layup could be much smarter options. In several plays, it was clear. The ball turned, the defense moved, the opening to attack the big box appeared, but the choice was the long throw. And when players who are not specialists in threes start to insist on these balls, the warning signal goes off once and for all. Seeing someone like Draymond Green stopping to pull up a three unnecessarily almost always indicates that the offense has lost its structure. The Warriors today are no longer that deep squad, with kickers in all positions. The current reality calls for a different reading. On the other hand, if the attack still raises doubts, the collective effort in defense deserves to be highlighted. The team communicated well, protected the rim as much as possible, fought for rebounds, and, most importantly, avoided giving Dallas easy second chances. In a league where any mistake is punished with a series of points, this type of commitment makes a huge difference. They weren't perfect defensive numbers, but they were solid enough to sustain the victory. And, within this context, one name in particular stood out in a discreet but important way: Daniel Gafford. His statistics may not be impressive at first glance, but the influence he had on the game was evident. The way he contested shots, how he occupied space in the paint, how he was always present in the fight for rebounds, shows exactly the type of piece that Golden State has been missing for a few seasons now. This is not someone who needs the ball in their hands all the time. On the contrary, the great value of a player like Gafford lies precisely in his ability to impact the game without needing plays to be designed for him. It's the pivot that protects the rim, that absorbs contact, that physically bothers. And when you look at how the Warriors struggle against bigger, more physical rosters, it's impossible not to wonder how much an interior presence like that could change the team's dynamic, especially in playoff series. Think about the chain effect. With someone strong in the paint, grabbing 10 or 11 rebounds per game, Draymond wouldn't need to sacrifice so much physically game after game. The wingers and guards could go out in transition with more confidence, knowing that the defensive rebound is safer. The defense on the perimeter could take a little more risk, putting pressure on the opposing kickers, knowing that there is protection behind. It's often this kind of quiet adjustment that changes the fortunes of a campaign. As the season progresses, the wear factor begins to take its toll. Playing on a national holiday, traveling, a series of difficult clashes, all of this takes a toll. Therefore, coming out of a big game with a mature performance and still having a little breather before a tough sequence against different teams can be a turning point not only physically, but mentally. The question that remains is, are the Warriors we saw today an outlier or the beginning of a pattern? Because it is important to say, this victory does not solve all problems. The fluctuation in three-pointers is still there. The lack of a fixed presence in the bottle still exists. Curry's emotional dependence in many moments remains a theme. But at the same overtime, the game showed that when the team accepts being more patient, more collective, and less hostage to the memory of the old dynasty, something interesting begins to emerge. The way Golden State managed the pace in the second half of the match is a good example of this. Instead of accelerating just to please the public or to turn the game into a frantic exchange of possessions, the team chose control. He made Dallas work until the final seconds of the attack clock, forced complicated decisions, slowed down when needed, accelerated at the right moments. This type of understanding of time and space is typical of teams that know where they want to go. Another positive point was seeing the ball continue to move even when the shots weren't falling. There was no automatic return to isolation, to let me figure it out on my own. Players like Moses Moody and Anthony Melton fit well into this flow. They didn't force protagonism, but they didn't hide either. They attacked when space appeared, respected the rhythm of the game, contributed within their roles. It's that kind of quiet contribution that sustains a team on nights when the big name isn't at its best. When the scoring becomes more distributed, opposing defenses are unable to focus all their attention on a single player, and this opens up gaps that, over the course of an entire match, make a big difference. The key for the Warriors is to make this type of play a habit, not an exception. Still, the three-line dilemma follows the team like a shadow. It's not just the bad shots, but the timing in which they happen. In several possessions, the team had already done the most difficult thing, changed the defense, created doubt, found a way into the perimeter. And even so, he opted for an early, long-range shot. It's as if, at times, the past still speaks louder than the present demands. And it is precisely when we start talking about the future that the most explosive part of all this emerges. While the performance on the court shows a team trying to find itself again, behind the scenes in the league began to heat up with a rumor that, if it gains ground, would completely change the conversation. Giannis Antetokounmpo being able, for the first time in a concrete way, to consider the possibility of wearing the Golden State Warriors shirt. The idea, in itself, already seems like something that, until recently, would have been dismissed as fantasy. But behind-the-scenes reports indicate that the mood has changed. People close to the player suggest that he would be open, at least on a conversational level, to discussing a path that would take him to the Bay Area. It's not a done deal, it's not a certainty, but it's a maybe coming from someone who has always treated decisions of this type with extreme care. On the Warriors' side, the stance also seems to have intensified. It's nothing new that the franchise moves aggressively when it sees the chance to bring in a generational talent. This time, rumors point to an enhanced offer, a package that would show clearly that the organization is willing to go to the limit to return to the top of the league, not just as a competitive team, but as a true axis of power. The combination of Giannis with Stephen Curry and Draymond Green isn't just attractive in terms of marketing. On the court, he would be a tactical nightmare for practically any opponent. A physically dominant player with the ability to attack the basket in any context, alongside one of the greatest shooters in history and one of the most intelligent defenders in the league, creates a structure that forces all other teams to rethink their plans. Of course, there is skepticism. Giannis has always been careful with his own trajectory, concerned with legacy, with franchise identity, with what it means to wear a shirt for several years. He is not the type of player who changes teams without deeply reflecting on the impact of this on his own history. At the same time, the way these rumors have gained strength makes even more conservative analysts admit that something is, in fact, moving. If this scenario is confirmed, we would not just be talking about a high-impact exchange. We would be facing a change of direction in the NBA. A rebuilding Warriors trying to balance between honoring what was and building what will be could suddenly accelerate that entire process with a single move. In competitive, narrative, and even emotional terms, it would be a complete transformation. For now, what we have is a curious picture. On the court, a team that seeks to rediscover a more mature version of itself, less hostage to the past and more aware of its own limitations. Outside of it, the possibility, even if remote, of a change that would put Golden State back at the center of the league's big conversations. The combination of these two elements, internal evolution and external ambition, is perhaps exactly what the franchise needs right now. And it's because that's why every game like this, every solid victory, every disciplined performance matters more than it seems. because whether with the current squad refining its identity or with the eventual arrival of a name the size of Giannis, what will sustain any project is the team's ability to understand who it is today, not just who it was yesterday. And looking ahead to tonight against Dallas, for the first time in a while, the Warriors have shown signs that they're willing to face that truth head-on. So that's it. While the entire NBA tries to understand what's happening with the Golden State Warriors on the court, behind the scenes, the biggest plot twist of this generation could be being born. A team that many believed in decline is beginning to rediscover its identity, adjust details, mature the way it plays, and at the same time, see Giannis Antetokounmpo's name entering the conversation in an increasingly serious manner. If this progresses, it is not just the Western Conference that will change its level. It is the entire league that will have to reorganize itself around a new axis of power. If you want to follow every step of this story, from the smallest tactical adjustments to the big rumors that could explode the market, don't stop here. In the pinned comment of this video, I left the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist, where I gathered everything you need to always stay one step ahead. Complete analyses, behind the scenes, trade scenarios, and what no one is having the courage to say about the future of this franchise. Once you finish this video, go down to the pinned comment, click on the playlist, and let it play. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and keep the like, because that's what keeps this type of content coming to you every day. The Warriors' story is still being written, and if the next few pages include Giannis, you won't want to find out late.